Imagine a world where the taste of cinnamon, the warmth of pepper, or the mystical scent of nutmeg held more power than gold. For centuries, these seemingly humble spices ignited empires, fueled unimaginable wealth, and plunged continents into brutal, bloody conflict. This is the story of an ancient monopoly, a hidden war waged across oceans and continents, driven by desire for flavor. From the veiled markets of the East to the desperate voyages of exploration, tiny seeds and dried bark became catalysts for a global transformation, reshaping maps and igniting the very first age of true globalization. Prepare to uncover the dramatic saga of the spice trade, where empires rose and fell, all for a dash of exotic taste. Before refrigeration, spices were a lifeline, preserving food, masking spoilage, and transforming bland meals into feasts. But their allure extended beyond practicality. Ancient Egyptians used them in embalming. Romans valued them as currency. Cinnamon, pepper, cloves, and nutmeg weren't just ingredients. They were symbols of status, health, and a gateway to exotic luxury. From the bustling bazaars of ancient Rome to the royal courts of Europe, the demand for these fragrant treasures soared, creating a lucrative, yet perilous, trade that whispered promises of immense wealth to those daring enough to pursue it. For millennia, the journey of spices from their mysterious origins in the East was a carefully guarded secret. Arab and Indian merchants dominated the early routes, navigating treacherous deserts with camel caravans along the Silk Road, or braving the unpredictable seas in nimble dhows. They were the essential middlemen, connecting the distant sources to the eager European markets. This complex network allowed them to control supply and dictate prices, fabricating elaborate myths about their origins. Cinnamon gathered from serpent-guarded nests, pepper from venomous plants, all to enhance their value and protect their lucrative monopoly. By the late Middle Ages, Venice, the Queen of the Adriatic, had established itself as the undisputed European gateway for Eastern spices. Leveraging its strategic location and powerful navy, Venetian merchants brokered exclusive deals with Arab traders in ports like Alexandria, becoming the final, essential link in the spice chain. They then distributed these precious commodities across Europe, imposing astronomical markups. This Venetian monopoly meant that even a small bag of pepper could cost a laborer an entire month's wages, fueling Europe's insatiable desire for direct access and igniting dreams of bypassing the costly bottleneck. The exorbitant prices and Venetian control became unbearable, sparking a desperate quest for an alternative. Portugal, a small but ambitious maritime nation, dared to dream of a direct sea route to the legendary Spice Islands. Under the patronage of figures like Prince Henry the Navigator, Portuguese mariners pushed the boundaries of known maps, slowly creeping down the African coast. This relentless pursuit culminated in Vasco da Gama's monumental voyage in 1498, circumnavigating Africa and reaching Calicut, India, a feat that irrevocably shattered the old world order and promised a new era of direct, unfettered access to spices. Vasco da Gama's arrival marked not just discovery, but conquest. The Portuguese were not interested in fair trade. They sought absolute control. Their superior naval technology, cannons against dhows, enabled them to brutally seize strategic ports, establish heavily fortified trading posts, and ruthlessly eliminate rival traders, particularly the established Arab networks. Cities like Goa, Malacca, and Ormuz became key strongholds in their Estado de India, ensuring a direct, albeit bloody, supply of pepper, cloves, and cinnamon. This era ushered in a new, violent chapter in the history of globalization, where trade and warfare became inseparable. While Portugal solidified its grip on the East, Spain sought its own route to the Spice Islands, famously funding Christopher Columbus's westward voyage. Though Columbus mistakenly landed in the Americas, he too promised riches, albeit different ones: gold, silver, and new spices like chilies. Ferdinand Magellan, sailing under the Spanish flag, finally completed the first circumnavigation of the globe, reaching the Moluccas, the true Spice Islands, in 1521. However, Spain's primary focus soon shifted to the vast mineral wealth of the Americas, leaving the eastern spice trade largely to its Portuguese rivals for a time. As Portugal's power waned, a new, formidable force emerged. The Dutch East India Company, or VOC, Verenigde Oost-Indische Company. Founded in 1602, the VOC was the world's first multinational corporation, an unprecedented entity granted sovereign powers. It could wage war, sign treaties, coin money, and establish colonies. With its vast fleet and private army, the VOC relentlessly challenged and eventually ousted the Portuguese from key spice strongholds. Its aim was not just trade, but total, unyielding monopoly, driven by an ambition far grander and more ruthless than any state before it. The VOC's quest for absolute monopoly reached its chilling peak on the Bondi Islands, the sole source of nutmeg and mace. In 1621, Governor-General Jan Pieterszoon Cohen, determined to control every single nutmeg, ordered the complete extermination of the Bandinese population, which resisted the company's brutal demands. Thousands were massacred or enslaved, and the islands were repopulated with Dutch settlers and slaves. This horrific act secured the VOC's complete control over nutmeg, demonstrating the extreme lengths to which early corporations would go for economic dominance, leaving an indelible stain on history. Even the iron grip of the VOC couldn't last forever. British, French, and other European powers continually vied for a share of the spice riches. Smuggling became rampant, with adventurous individuals like Pierre Poivre successfully transporting spice seedlings from Dutch territories to French colonies, breaking the monopolies on cloves and nutmeg. These acts of botanical espionage, combined with shifting global politics and the rise of new economic theories, gradually eroded the rigid, violent monopolies. The age of absolute spice control began its slow, inevitable decline, paving the way for a more diverse, if still competitive, global marketplace. The saga of the spice monopoly is more than a tale of culinary desires. It's a foundational chapter in global history. It launched an age of exploration, spurred the rise of multinational corporations, ignited wars, and established brutal colonial systems that shaped the modern world. The drive for these aromatic treasures connected distant lands, drove technological innovation in shipbuilding and navigation, and ultimately led to the early forms of globalization we recognize today. From those ancient desires to the modern supermarket shelf, the scent of spice still carries echoes of adventure, greed, and an extraordinary human story. The quest for spices, once a symbol of exotic luxury, became a brutal engine of empire-building, conquest, and unimaginable suffering. From the Silk Road's whispers to the cannons of the VOC, tiny seeds and dried bark dictated the fate of nations, redrew maps, and laid the foundations for our interconnected world. The legacy of the spice monopoly reminds us that even the smallest desires can trigger monumental shifts, leaving an indelible mark on history's fabric. Next time you savor the warmth of cinnamon or the bite of pepper, remember the epic journey, the blood spilled, and the empires built, all for a taste of the exotic.